What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Hustling Sideways podcast. I'm Alan Halas. I'm a music writer.
And I'm Jim Love, and I'm a keynote and motivational speaker.
And this is episode number 84 of the Hustling Sideways podcast.
We are inching closer and closer to a century mark.
I know.
And it's getting kind of wild.
Yeah.
Up in here. So I'm excited for that. It is when they listen to the show, it won't be the middle of summer, but it's currently the middle of summer in Milwaukee. It's great. It's been nice out for like 2 weeks straight, sans like the storms that are at night when we're trying to sleep. But
I am slightly tanner.
Yeah,
so
I got a farmer's tan actually going here, which I am.
That's
awesome.
The worst farmer's tan every summer without fail.
Yeah, I was playing like I was on a bachelor party this past weekend playing some volleyball, and I had like a sleeveless shirt on, and I got out and I was like, I forgot to put sunblock on.
Oh no,
I better get out of here.
Yeah.
It was wild, but that's the risk you gotta take, and but we're excited. It's been actually, we're going to be doing spoiler alert, we have a kind of a series of folks who are part of the Brewed Ideas challenge that we did at Marquette.
We were the host MCs for.
We were.
I read an article about it today, and I didn't realize that there were highlights broadcasted on the news.
What?
Yeah, there were highlights from it on CBS 58.
Are we in this?
I haven't seen the video from it, but I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, send it.
I'm gonna
put it on my resume. No, I'm kidding. But that's really cool. We had a lot of fun. But we're doing kind of a cool series where we're going to get a bunch of student entrepreneurs on.
Yes.
And this is actually round 2 of that. And so, Alan, I'll let you take it away with our wonderful guests that we have here with us today.
Yes, absolutely. So we have Austin Plummer with us today. He is the founder of an app called WellFed that he's developing. He's got a background as a personal trainer. It is intended for millennials like Jim and I, who we prep meals. I don't know about you if you meal prep during the week.
I try to.
You try to. My wife does.
I was going to say my wife does.
Terribly.
I'm really bad at it.
Yeah. So we could use this app for
if
sure.
We can. Yeah.
And it is for millennials like us to enhance their meal prep so that we are not making the same thing over and over and over again, like the 2 recipes that I know how to make.
That's right. Yeah.
So without further ado, Austin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. For sure.
Of course. Where are you calling us from today, Austin?
Well, I'm in Maryland.
Oh, nice. Okay. I don't know.
I don't think we've had a Maryland before.
This might be we've had DC. I don't know that we've had Maryland. So there we go. We are rolling around the country.
I'll take it.
We slowly are trying to. We should have like a map or something with all the different places.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, like 2 years ago, and here we are.
It'll never happen.
It hasn't happened. And you're on summer break from Marquette, right, as we speak?
Correct. I am. So enjoying it. This weather is crazy. It's 100 degrees here in Maryland. So yeah. This is the day my AC must act up, so it's been hot in my house. It's just it's been days.
Oh gosh. Blink twice if you're in trouble, Austin. Let us
I don't think having a liquid in my body to even blink that much. So
there you go.
Well, don't pass out. But before you do that, tell us a little bit, kind of like your background, what kind of led you to Marquette, and just your background up to this point. Born and raised in Maryland?
No, so I'm actually from New Jersey. So grew up, born and raised in New Jersey. I went to University of Maryland. I ended up down here. Graduated from there in 2020. Undergrad with a degree in electrical engineering. 2020 was COVID period. So during that time frame, my job start date got pushed back a little bit. So I had a couple months in between where I wasn't really doing much. I was trying to find ways to make some money, kind of get myself started in the professional world. And I've always had passions for sports and exercise and things of that nature. So I figured personal training certification was the first step to that. Getting myself back out there, kind of figuring out how I can help people while also staying in shape myself, learning the kind of things I know now and just how to eat right, how to work out right, all those kind of things. And then started my job. I've been a software engineer for the past 4 years or so. Didn't want to do electrical engineering because all electrical engineers work in some kind of isolated area that was not my personality ever. I've always wanted to be around people, always wanted to help people, figure out how I can use technology and such to do so. So about a year or 2 ago, I applied for an internship trying to kind of switch careers. I was looking at a sports and exercise focused kind of internship with this company out in Arizona that was basically telling me that, you don't have any experience in this, so you can't really hire you for anything. So I was like, probably should go back to school and get that, huh? So that's where I started looking for programs like the one at Marquette where I'm in. It's called Sports and Exercise Data Analytics. It's one of the very few programs in the country. So it was a good way for me to kind of jumpstart my career in that space, but also enhance my data science skills, get some more programming experience, meet some cool people, and just, figure out life. So
Yeah,
That's
figure out life. We're all still working on
I
that.
think, yeah, we'll let you know when we get there. But was this your first, had you visited the Midwest before? Was it your first time going that way?
Before my first time in Marquette, no, actually. So when I got it, before I applied, I went to open house. I came out, big sports guy. So I went and tried to time it when there was a Bucks game. Of course, that was the game. It was one game where as soon as I got my Uber to the game, Giannis was ruled out for the game, and I was like, well, that's my trip. So
Perfect. Yeah, I get
yeah.
that.
So I've had a couple times out there since then, but I was Marquette about four times now in my past year. So yeah,
Okay, very
like it.
cool. I have to ask, big sports guy, former athlete, have you what sports did you play at all?
Yeah, so growing up, I played everything, honestly. I played baseball was my main sport. I played football in high school, played basketball, did track, soccer, swimming, um, did tennis for a random summer. So a little bit of everything out there. Tried it all, and then didn't play anything in college though. That was when my career ended. So yeah, went on to play like intramurals and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
nothing serious, you know.
And by the way, intramurals don't have to stop. You're looking at someone who still plays intramurals and is an intramural champion the last couple of years. So
I
you're
love
good
it.
to go. Keep
I
that
love it.
energy. It's solid. So you come to Marquette and start getting involved in this program. What did you start getting a sense of like how long did it take you to maybe get introduced to 707 Hub to start thinking about becoming an entrepreneur? Was that always something you wanted to do, or did that start off as school started?
Yeah, so kind of started off a while ago. I'd say started undergrad. My minor, sorry, I mentioned my major. My minor was technology entrepreneurship. So I was in a program at University of Maryland, similar to kind of doing similar things at the 707 Hub. And so when I was first introduced to it by one of my professors here at Marquette, I was like, oh, this sounds cool. So got a, and then we had a bunch of like just talks about it. We had a class where we went there. I'm obviously remote, so I watched the class virtually, but being able to kind of see and understand what the 707 Hub does and like looking to get back into my entrepreneurial spirit, I think that was really just a great like pathway for me to kind of get to where I am now. So yeah.
For sure. When did you kind of get the tech bug to start working on, developing apps and thinking that like, because that's not something that necessarily I think even people our age or
Hmm.
still had any kind of idea in, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like were you somebody that would play around with computers a lot like growing up, or were you somebody that was like were you kind of like hacking into stuff, or like were you just at the point where you're like, all right, I feel like I could make something, how do I do this?
Yeah. So first introduction to like tech and such was I tell the story all the time when people ask me why I did electrical engineering. In the fourth grade, we had like in like middle school and such those book fairs and all that. Your parents will give you a couple dollars to go buy a book. I didn't want to read. So I went and found the most non-book related item I could find in the entire book fair. It was a little electrical kit. You kind of connected wires and tinfoil and made a light bulb light up. And I played with that for months, just trying to find different ways to make it work. And so that's where I got my hands in technology more and more. And then I got to that point of undergrad where I realized like that's kind of like a pathway into electrical engineering, not really a pathway, but like an introduction to electrical engineering.
Hmm.
Halfway through undergrad, I realized like electrical engineering may not be it, but software engineering sounds a little more fun to me. So I started switching my focus and my classes and such. And then in the program I mentioned back in undergrad with the entrepreneurship program I was in, one of our projects we worked on as a group was developing an app. And so it's kind of my first introduction to that. But for me, honestly, always just wanted to learn new things and try different things. And so when the challenge of developing an app came to me first, I was like, let me just dive in and figure out what I can do with this. And then some of the courses I've taken at Marquette have taught me a little more how to do so as well. So it's
Yeah.
been definitely helpful and something I'm continuing to pursue for sure.
Now, just
Yeah.
to be clear, this all started because you didn't want to read. I think that's a big takeaway for all the
Yeah.
students out there. Reading doesn't have to happen. I don't think you need to read it. I'm kidding. I'm
I
not.
like
I'm not a big reader, to be honest with you. So I think that's like hilarious.
I
But
like that the
yeah,
stance that we are taking on this podcast.
we are an anti-reading podcast.
It's
I
not
want to be
reading.
very clear about
Other
that.
podcasts have real hot takes about things,
We don't need to read. Yeah.
and we're like, no, don't
Yeah,
read it.
don't
That's
do that.
what we're at.
Yeah, that's really funny though, Austin. I pick you're like pick the thing furthest from picking a book.
Yeah,
Here's your career. It's
exactly. So
really funny.
That
Oh
is,
gosh.
it is very cool. I think that honestly, any kind of like software engineering or development and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it's like an acquired taste
Oh yeah.
because as somebody that has only tried to noodle with that sort of thing once in a
Hmm.
while, like there used to be a breaking and entering app for a while,
Yeah.
that was like made on like a very cheap,
You had an
like,
app
yeah, it was
class?
very
Oh my
cheap
gosh.
platform. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't into like coding or
Yeah.
anything, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Sure.
my
That's fine.
coding experience does not go beyond like MySpace copy and paste,
Yeah. Oh
right?
man.
But like it is an acquired thing to get into the weeds and really kind of mess around with like a workflow and a flow of an app and how like all of the tedious details into that. Um as somebody that maybe didn't want to read to start, how did you manage, getting through like some of the very tedious aspects of kind of creating an app, building things, or did you find that that was something you kind of took to really quickly?
Yeah, for me, it's been a lot of I learn best by doing. I think a lot of the ways I've gotten into app development was like watching tutorial videos and like going through different courses and whatnot that you find online, like random free courses. But for me, I really just wanted to get my hands dirty. I think just like trying and failing and trying and failing. Like I went through I couldn't even tell you how many tutorials I've gone through. But still learning, still not can't say I'm a full app developer, but I think I know a little something or two to get myself started and then continue to learn and learn and develop and develop. So
Mhm.
before this call, actually, I was looking at some of my just like technology tools and such and just kind of learning about like things like I'll say some terminology that may not matter, but things like Docker and AWS kind of stuff, Amazon kind of services and things like that that I can use to kind of advance the app to the point of the market, getting to the market and just learning more and more. So kind of went on a tangent off your question, but yeah, I think that kind of answered
Great
it.
though. You're just
I knew Amazon Web Services. That
yeah.
was it.
Yeah,
That
that
was the
was,
only
was
one.
the one. I thought Dockers were pants, but
Yeah.
nice pants specifically. But here we are. That's no that that's really cool that you're able to just continuously learn and develop. And so now, as you're doing this at Marquette, getting introduced to an entrepreneurship place where you feel like maybe you can start blossoming. When did you start combining sort of this passion you had for I don't know for sports and these things and getting into like well-fed, like how does that start coming together in a way that like, oh, I can actually make something that is going to help people? Is it immediate? Is it a semester, 2 semesters worth? How long does that take?
So it's funny. There's two sides to the story.
Hmm.
One, so I kind of had the idea of WellFed in the back of my head, like just being able to allow people to use ingredients they find in their kitchen and be able to make recipes because I know I struggle in the kitchen all the time. Just trying to figure out what to make. Like we said, like the same two recipes over and over again. I wanted to try something different. So I was talking to my older brother one day. I was just like throwing out. I didn't even mention the idea yet, and he kind of repeated back to me the exact idea I had, and I said, "Whoa." Okay, now, now I know I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do something with this. Okay, cool. If you thought it before I thought it, before I even said it, okay, cool. And then so then we got into the last semester at Marquette, and I was in my data science class or a data visualization class. We were tasked with developing an app for the class, and one of our professors asked anybody if they thought they had a really cool idea, and I was like, well, I think I do. So let me just say it out loud. And I said it out loud, and he was like, whoa, that's really good. And I was like, okay, two validations in the same time period. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead with this and just try it out. Let's see how it goes. So
Yeah.
that's really what it came about. And then kind of working on it throughout the course of that class. Like it was part of my class project and then kind of bled into the things with the Brewed Ideas challenge. And so all kind of came together, honestly.
That's awesome. Now, I have a challenging question for you because I think the power of affirmation is critical. Now,
Yeah.
what if your professor was like, do you think you still would have gone and done this if there was like a negative reaction to it?
Yeah, I think specifically because it was for the class, like that was my topic for the class was my job was to convince him anyway. And
Sure.
so I think for me, it was something that I'm passionate about. I think I find much value in it, and I think people will as well. People that I talk to think that they'll find value in it as well. So for me,
That's
it
great.
was a job of like convincing him for sure. But if he had said no, I've had people tell me no to my ideas many times, and they work out. So
Yeah, and it's like I'm all about like positive affirmation, but like it's just amazing. I think you're an anomaly in this sense. Like some people can be derailed by one person being like, nope, like that's not gonna.
Yeah.
And they're if they're not fully into it, that's all it takes to just like. I'm sure so many good ideas have just died at one person who's like a
Oh yeah.
superior, whatever. Like, no, you shouldn't do that. They're like, oh, no, I'm
oh
definitely
yeah.
not. So I think it's
Yeah.
just like so critical to have that and to have people in your corner. Did you find that a lot of people, like obviously your brother, your professor, were there more people that were starting to be like, he's got a pretty good idea. Like, let's support him in doing this.
Yeah, I would say specifically getting into the Brewed Ideas Challenge. My mentor Bobby was great. Second I told him the idea, he started just throwing out additional ideas on top of it, and I was like, "Wow, this is really helpful." So he was amazing, just helped me throughout the entire process. But my family's always been very supportive. Kind of
Hmm.
like what you're saying, like how ideas can be shot down by someone superior. I've had many experiences like that in my life, so I've experienced it enough times to know how to just tune it out, let it just be what it is, and continue to push through. So my friends and family have definitely all been very supportive. Tell them the idea and kind of like walk through my thought process so that I can make sure that I'm not kind of getting narrow-sighted, like with my own opinions kind of driving the entirety of the process of development. So making sure that I get other opinions, and people have been telling me different things, like they think one feature may not be as good as another feature or whatever it may be. Just kind of taking that feedback and running with it, but also leaning into the support of it for sure.
For
And
sure. And when having a mentor too, I think helps because
Yeah.
you kind of have a sounding board, especially
mhm.
somebody that's kind of been there and been in that world a little bit too. How helpful was that for you to have a mentor, to have somebody, and were they able to, maybe stray you away from some things that didn't seem like they were going to be the most feasible, along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I mentioned, Bobby was great throughout the entirety of the Brewed Ideas Challenge. Like from day one, me being the only person who was remote throughout the entire challenge, I believe, was always a challenge for me. Just kind of missing the different sessions that they had throughout the program, but being able to get that through help from Patrick and help from Bobby, just kind of reinforcing what was taught in those different sessions, what was going through. One thing that I always like Bobby would always do, he'd always bring me back in when I started going too far off with ideas. Like, let's just focus on getting like what is the problem? What is the problem you want to solve? How are you going to solve it? Start with that, find out your persona, figure out what their issues are, what their problems are, and then being able to kind of reel myself back in and focusing on what that person would want in the scenario rather than what I think is best. And
Yeah.
so he always kind of grounded me in that and made sure that I focus on the user as opposed to focusing on what I think is going to be cool or what I think is going to be the next biggest thing. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's great advice. It's really, yeah, I mean,
I
that's
was gonna say if
amazing.
we had that for
Yeah.
us too, sometimes I am totally the person that goes down the rabbit hole.
Hmm.
Sometimes, like I will have
Hmm.
a morning where I will be like, okay, I really think I can do this, and then like I will redesign part of my website by the end of the day because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I wanted to fix this one little thing, and then I just was like went too far deep into something,
Exactly.
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
there's like no content posted for the day because I'm
Right.
like, oh,
Alan just spent his time
Exactly.
doing the good
yeah,
work.
exactly.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's interesting for the speaking world. What you just described, Austin, having like an audience persona, what they think, what they feel. That's exactly how I got started. Was I had to write that down and pick someone who I'm speaking to because for my world, like I walk into a crowd of 500, it's easy to focus on all of them, and you
mhm,
get distracted when you zone in on like who you want to see and what you hope their thoughts and beliefs are and everything that they need to hear. Then you're talking to everyone. Like it's kind of
sure,
intimate. So it's almost like scientific, but that's why that's such brilliant advice is because when you're thinking
yeah,
of a product, what's going to hit, like think about who's going to use it and why they want to use it. What do they want to get done? So that's awesome. I think that's
Yeah.
shout out to Bobby for that advice.
Yeah,
yeah.
Bobby's great.
Let's talk a little bit about kind of how it works, the
Mhm.
idea of the app. So it's meal prep, which I mean everybody I think has done at some point, or tried to at some point.
Try
I've
to.
at least tried to.
Yeah.
Um, but tell us kind of, the core of what it is that really separates it and allows you to kind of customize it.
Yeah. So WellFed, the way I like to best explain it is for me personally, whenever I go through the course of my regular week or regular day, I know I have to eat. Well, I know I need to eat healthy. I know that I want to like have these health goals I want to achieve, but I don't necessarily know how to get there. I know I have like my go-tos, my habits, my regular foods I eat on a regular basis. I know that they kind of align with my goals, but I don't really know how to make it so I don't get bored, it doesn't become monotonous, it doesn't become a tedious process where I feel like I'm dreading eating at that point. So
Mhm.
what WellFed allows you to do is to go into like it's an app on your phone. You're allowed to go into you can go into your kitchen, see what kind of ingredients you have. Let's say I have like chicken, some kind of sauces, whatever it may be, whatever you have in your kitchen. And just type in those different ingredients into the app, and it will return back to you not only a list of recipes that fit those ingredients, but recipes that also fit your health goals. So it's going to take in your biometric information like your height, weight, age, how often you exercise, things of that nature, what your goal is, whether it's just to lose weight or to gain weight, and be able to kind of develop these meals from the recipes, from the ingredients that you have that will allow you to achieve those goals over the course of time. So as you continue to log these meals into the app, it also learns your eating habits and eating patterns and will kind of tailor a meal plan for you based on how you typically eat. And you can obviously put in like restrictions, like dietary restrictions or religious or health restrictions, whatever it may be. But being able to have that app that continuously learns you and helps you to develop a plan that's going to be sustainable for the long term is the issue that WellFed is looking to solve, and just kind of the overall focus of the app.
Okay. Definitely. I would immediately put in like no vegetables. No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
no green stuff.
No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
And it would tell you no.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
What's the one with burgers and brats and beer? Is that
Can we do
yeah,
that? Is that one? Um, I definitely really like the idea.
Mhm.
It stood out to me when you pitched at
Mhm.
the Brewed Ideas challenge as well, because there's a lot of apps that probably do something kind of like this, but they only maybe focus on one aspect of that. Like
Mhm.
they might be like, here's how you eat healthy. And then it gives you a complex recipe that has, 10 things in it, and you have maybe four of them in your house,
Yeah.
right? Like you're going out and spending money to go do that. Or just the opposite. Here's the food that you like, and they want people to, like the app and keep using it,
right.
but it's not necessarily the most healthy thing in the
Yeah,
world, too.
right,
So I
right.
think you're tackling two problems at once, and with the goal of like keeping things simple for, the end user, for somebody to be able to make this with stuff that's in their house. So I think it's
Mhm.
really, really awesome.
Mhm.
And it's just smart
Yeah.
kind of all the way around,
What was the
Thanks.
experience like for you, pitching it? Had you done that before in front of a group of people, like to actually go up and talk about it? Were you nervous? Did you practice a bunch? What was that like for you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was definitely nervous. I can't say, at least not for WellFed. I can't say in my memory I've ever done a pitch by myself, at least.
Mm.
So being up there by myself, talking about the idea, like I practiced. Oh my goodness, I couldn't tell you how many times in front of anybody who would listen. I was practicing in front of the mirror myself, recording myself. Yeah, Bobby, I practiced with 1,000 times. My brother, I practiced with 1,000 times. I even pitched to just like random friends, and I had like some user engagement kind of activities I did throughout the course of the program, of course the challenge, sorry. So being able to kind of bring all that together, and it all culminates in the what, 5 to 10 minutes that we've had to present. It's like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, I was like,
You,
okay.
And then
you,
it probably went by in like 10 seconds
Oh my
yeah.
goodness, flew by.
Fast. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I definitely felt like I was comfortable. Like I saw a couple familiar faces in the crowd, and then
Mm.
everyone was just like welcoming, and like I saw, well, as soon as I see heads nodding as I'm talking, like, okay,
Did
I can
I
calm
go in?
down.
That's great.
Calm down.
Did,
I know they're at least hearing what I'm saying, and it makes some
yeah.
sense.
Did you get any questions that you weren't ready for from the judges, or did you feel like you were pretty prepared for everything?
I think that that's another thing that Bobby did really well. He helped me prepare like, for any questions they were going to ask. I think the hardest question to answer is always, with this being something that is kind of like what you were saying before, with the it being something that's very similar to, not very similar, but similar enough to some of the other items out there in the world, and just trying to figure out like how you differentiate, how you emphasize the differentiation. That was the one question I got. I think the difference is that they have that kind of like artificial intelligence or machine learning model that's underlying in the app that's going to learn the user and help you to develop things over time. That's one thing I try to articulate and make sure that people understand when I'm explaining the app, because when people hear artificial intelligence, they think, oh, I could just type this in ChatGPT. What you could do, but ChatGPT is not going to remember what you ate yesterday, or be able to kind of track food along with you as you go, or be able to learn your eating habits, eating patterns. Like those are things that are missing in the whole experience. And so
Yeah.
other apps will allow you to track that or log that through the course of time, but they won't allow you to, they won't learn anything either. So like the underlying model that's going to learn about you and allow you to use things that you already have in your possession. I think that's the differentiating factor that WellFed is really going to have to, well, what I'm going to have to make sure is emphasized when I pitch the app, when I talk about the app. And that was the
Mhm.
one question that came at me, that I was just like, I knew I was going to get the question, but it's always just like something you want, like you have to convince someone that your answer makes sense. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you were the recipient of a $1,000 grant as the audience choice for part of the Brewed Ideas Challenge. That came from Brady Corporation.
Mhm.
Uh, Tell us kind of what that does for you. You know what I mean? Like other than just, I would think immediately that's a huge validation to be like, okay, even more people really like this. They want to actually back it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But once you get that $1,000, like where did your head kind of go of like, okay, how do I utilize this for, for well-fed?
Yeah. So first thing for me, my initial step that I want to take or that I've been taking so far is trying to find, I want to have dietitians that I'm going to use to help validate the data that I'm using for the app. So the meal data, the ingredient data, all that kind of stuff. And so I found a couple different universities that have their students actually like they're in school to be dietitians, like they're learning all this kind of stuff, and they'll have their students look for opportunities that will employ them or pay them some money. So I found one at my alma mater, University of Maryland, that I'm still kind of in communication with them about that. So working for that, but also kind of just some of the underlying technology that I was talking about, like AWS memberships and subscriptions and such, like paying for those so I can kind of do some testing with the data, being able to make sure that I know how to utilize all this kind of stuff and just working through it. The stuff is like monthly hosting fees and such. So kind of just
No,
working.
I know that world. Yeah.
Yeah,
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 that's right there. That's
working through avenues.
do you feel like you're learning something new every day with this? Like, I mean, I think there's just so many things to just like know about it. Like, do you ever have a day where you're like, oh, okay, like, but is it always just like constant learning, constant taking it in?
Absolutely. I made like a note on my like Google Docs and stuff, just like write things down as soon as I figure as soon as the idea comes to my head, as soon as I learn something new, I try to write it down, like add
Mhm.
to part of my plan. So try to develop like a plan for myself, like and then for me personally, I go on like we kind of talked about the rabbit hole before, and like my brain goes on tangents all the time. It's hard for me to focus. I'm not like writing things down or like actually logging in. So
Mhm.
for me, it's like making sure that I have a plan to kind of stick to it, even when I'm learning new things, like throw it in the plan. If it's relevant right now, focus on it. If it's not, come back to it later when that part of the plan comes up. So,
Totally.
trying to
Yeah.
stay focused and locked in on that has been my main focus, I will say.
Mhm.
Incredibly smart. Honestly, like to do that to remember those tangents because
Yeah.
when you have like days where nothing is going right, you can start working on that thing and experiment with that thing too. In addition to like the Brewed Ideas Challenge, now are you looking for like VC funding? Like, are you trying to look for like outside funding for the app, or is it kind of like let's bootstrap this thing, let's build this thing out, as we can?
Yeah, so right now I'm focused on just getting something working. I have like a very basic version of it working, but I want to get something more let's say advanced. So I'm trying to get my MVP out there, have something that I can kind of present in these competitions and being able to get more funding that can show to investors and be able to like validate the idea of the app and show that it's actually something that can be done as opposed to just wireframes or things that I think can be done. So being able to get to that point is my initial step, and then kind of locking in on finding more funding, being able to develop, because developing it all myself is challenging for sure.
Yeah,
Being able to kind of get more funding so I can bring on more people, help to kind of alleviate some of that like stress on myself and be able to also like pay for those like dietitians and all the other things I want to do with the app. So first step, just getting something that can show people when that works, and then kind of working from there to do more and more with it. So yeah.
for sure.
That's awesome.
Is that the core of your summer right now? Is that, working on on app when you can?
So yeah, I work a full-time job and I had a summer class that just ended like 2 weeks ago. So got through
Okay.
those, got through the class at least. And so now my secondary attention can go back into the app and making sure that I'm being able
Awesome.
to kind of continuously work through it and push through it as I get more free time or whatever we call free time these days.
Yeah, whatever you
Yeah,
want to
no,
call it, right?
Yeah.
exactly.
Definitely no reading time though, right? We
No,
just
Yeah,
no, that yeah,
no
audio
reading. No
best.
reading.
done. Done.
Oh yeah, audiobooks only and podcasts. There we go.
Podcast. Yep,
That's
exactly.
what we stand by.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
that's great.
What does the near future look for like for you? I actually don't know. Are you headed back to Marquette this upcoming semester, right?
So yeah, so I'm actually remote entirely. So all my classes I take online. So I'm to have one more year at Marquette in this master's program. So we start up again next month, and then just pushing through the year. Honestly, working through that, looking for some more opportunities to kind of advance my skills and just practice these different skills that I'm learning in classes, and then like we're talking about this whole time, just focusing on the app, being able to make that actually something that comes to reality because I feel like that is something that I want to take it to a very far place, and I think will be able to allow me to break into that quote unquote financial freedom world. So yeah.
Mhm. Is your intention, like breaking it, to a far place? Do you want to grow this to a point where you sell it? Do you want to be involved for a long time? Do you have like an ideal world of what that may look like for you,
I think
assuming it continues?
yeah, I want to be involved for a long time for sure.
Mhm.
Since this is a passion of mine, like this is
Mhm.
it's very when I've always like been taught. Like when you find something that you love doing that doesn't feel like work, run with it, stick with it. That's
Mhm.
going to be my thing. So this is something that I'm very passionate about. I think it can be branched off into so many different avenues, like helping people who are using the app to connect to personal trainers, like working with some of the things I talked about in the challenge, like corporate wellness programs, like being able to kind of build out all of that so that it can be a much more impactful app and something that I can feel proud, like leaving my legacy on the world and being able to kind of pass this on to people who I know can take it further than me when the time comes. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Very cool.
Excellent.
So if people want to figure out more about kind of what's going on or stay in touch with you and kind of get the backstory of what's going on with WellFed, where's the best place to follow you for now? Because I know the app is still, getting
Yeah.
built out.
Yeah, so TikTok and Instagram are the places that TikTok mostly I talk about things related to the app, just like my whole entrepreneurial experience, my whole personal trainer experience, things like that. So TikTok is both of them. All my social media is the same. It's AJ Plum PLUM 626. So
Okay.
yep, just
Perfect.
my name, and my birthday. So
Yeah.
Yeah, very creative.
With that too, with like TikTok, have you had anything where like have people reached out yet? Because I mean, that's something that people could see content from you,
Mhm.
and then maybe they find out more about the app from there, and they're
yeah,
like, oh, I didn't know that this was a thing, like.
yeah. So I haven't done as much content on the app yet on TikTok. My TikTok, I have a decent TikTok following now because I built this is a side story, but I built a smart mirror in my house and I kind of posted that on TikTok, kind of. I posted that on TikTok and that one kind of blew up a little bit. So I got my initial following on TikTok. And so I have like 4,000, 5,000 followers on TikTok that
Oh
I
wow.
can
You say a
run with.
smart mirror?
Yeah, I know. It sounds cool, huh?
What does that mean? Like mirror on the wall? Like is that
So
like
yeah, I wish it was in this room, I would show you. But basically, yeah, it's like a mirror on the wall. It's built with like a microcomputer, a computer screen, and then a two-way mirror. And so what I have it do is like I have it track like when I built it like 2021-ish. So that's when
Yeah.
like cryptocurrency, everybody was like raving about that. So I had, like a crypto tracker on there. Puts on my sports scores for the day.
My
Oh
gosh.
wow.
Yeah, like it gives me like the news for the day, the weather, like all those kind of things. There's so many things you can do with it. But that was a project that I found online. I just scrolled through YouTube some days and I found it online. And I was like, oh, let me try it.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah.
that's
I'm about to tear apart a mirror in my house.
I love
I'm
it.
totally sure this.
I also
No,
love that you like saw something like that. You're just like, I want to try it. Like that sounds
Yeah.
like that's like something that you would do. That's great.
It's like,
And
why
I'm
not? Let's
thinking
just make a
you're
movie.
living out the like Snow White and like the like having like a live mirror on your wall. That's what that's
Yeah.
what. Was
Yeah.
that
that'd be
Snow White
great.
or was that Cinderella? Maybe that was Cinderella.
No, it's
Was it Snow White?
no,
So,
no
this
way.
why? Yeah, I
No
think
way.
so.
Yeah. Okay.
All
I don't
I'm getting
know.
my Disney movie
we
mixed
don't.
up.
I think we don't read. We don't watch Disney
Yeah.
movies.
We don't do a whole lot. We just sit here and talk about it.
Yeah, yeah.
I like the idea of like the smart mirror though. That's like
Yeah.
the Matt Foley like the or the not sorry the different SNL bit where it's like I'm good enough, I'm strong enough, and doggone it, people like me. Like
Yeah.
I want. Let's get the mirror to say
Need
that
that
to
one.
me in the
exactly.
morning.
Oh yeah, give me
Self-assured.
affirmations every morning.
Yeah.
Feel
That's
good
the
today. I was
affirmation
like,
gear.
okay.
There's your
Yep,
next one.
exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's great.
So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this, and we really appreciate it.
Yes.
And I am very excited to see, where things go with
Mhm.
WellFed.
Mhm.
Eventually, I will be using it to make more than healthier tacos and grilling and whatever else I'm
That's
doing
great.
at the house.
Eventually.
Eventually,
Yeah.
Right,
let's see.
one day.
I like it, but sign me up for sure. I'm definitely an early
Absolutely.
user on it.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
I'm very, very excited. And again, shout out to Marquette for the Brewed Fresh
Yes.
Challenge.
Yeah.
Uh, for connecting us too on this
Uh-huh.
end
That's
of things
perfect.
too.
Yes.
So,
And what happens if they want to listen to this show?
well, if you want to listen to the show, funny you should say that, Jim. We are the Hustling Sideways podcast on all your podcast platforms. We are also on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We are on Instagram. We are also on TikTok. We are not making smart mirrors on TikTok, but we should be doing
I
that.
know.
And we're on LinkedIn as
No.
well. So check us out there and make sure you like and subscribe and do all of those things. Give us a 5-star review because it's legally the only one you can give us.
We don't make the rules, they do.
That's what the rules are.
Mhm.
And if you want to be a guest on this show, you can send us an email over at hustlingsideways@gmail.com. And Jim,
Keep on hustling.
we will see you next week.
Peace.